Hello and welcome to my ranking for the Warriors of Chaos Legendary Lords. Before you watch this video, be sure to leave your ranking down in the comments below to see how it compares to mine. Although I'd like to preface this one by saying that all of the Warriors of Chaos are pretty bad and are pretty similar, so this one might be quick. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Fishing Clash. Fishing Clash brings all the joy and relaxation of fishing, but with none of the patience and sitting out in the rain for 6 hours to catch an old boot. Sorry Animal Crossing, Fishing Clash is my favourite fishing related game now. Did I mention it's also totally free to play on the iOS and Android app stores and has an impressive 4.7 star rating. Even though it's free, there are still hundreds of different fish species, from the virgin bassers and carps to the alpha chad muscalung to the alpha chad tiger trout. On top of this, you can also collect and upgrade your gear like new rods, lures and more to increase your chances of catching some big boys. Another great feature to keep things fresh is the fact that you can use fishing spots from around the world, so one minute you can be sitting on the banks of Loch Ness in Scotland, freezing your ass off, and the next you can be kicking back on a yacht in Hawaii. Being incredibly competitive, I also enjoy the duels, challenges, tournaments and championships online against other players and even your friends and members of your clan. By the way, if you want to join mine, it's called Colonel's Carps and it's pretty epic. There are also events every single week to keep you coming back and progressing quickly. Use the link in the description to download the game and use the code LetsFish to get 130 pearls, 1 pack of gold lures, the Pro Florida license, and an exclusive avatar for totally free. It supports me, and you get to play a pretty fun game. What's not to love? And I'll now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Now, let's just get straight into the rankings. Coming in last place is poor Sigvald the Magnificent. His faction starts, just like all the other ones, in the top right corner of the map in the Chaos Wastes. You have easy access to the whole of Norska to either race to the ground or awaken tribes to net yourself some early allies. Once that's done, you head in pretty much any direction you want, since you're going to take out pretty much anyone who isn't you. That's just the Warriors of Chaos life, and until they get reworked, it's not going to change. For his other faction effects, he grants Marauder units the Rage passive ability, which upgrades to the Berserk ability once they reach rank 7 and above. He gains 20 relations with Norska and 15 leadership when fighting men. For his personal army, he grants 3 Horde growth, minus 60% upkeep for Chaos Marauders, and Strider for all units. For his starting units, he brings a Hell Cannon, which is a powerful single-entity artillery unit, chosen with Halberds, which are an elite anti-large infantry, and regular chosen, which are an elite line-holding infantry. Siggy himself is a brilliant duelist with a load of armor and fantastic melee stats. He also comes with perfect vigor, so will never tire in battle and lose any effectiveness. He does great damage, but it's not the most armor piercing in the world, so if his enemy has a lot, he may start to struggle. He works great in the front lines, taking on enemy lords and heroes, and he has no mounts. With all his items and abilities, he grants buffs to himself and allies. Now, the reasoning for his rank. Again, starting location doesn't matter since they all stand in the same place, so I'm not going to mention it this time. Faction effects here are a little bit meh, and the only good one is the leadership. You aren't going to use Marauders past the first 5 turns since you get Chaos Warriors so damn fast. Relations are not something one considers when playing the Wars of Chaos. Awaken those tribes to dominate them. Diplomacy is a waste of time. His army effects are the same thing really. Faster growth is neat and helps get access to more powerful units quicker, but once you reach max size, it's useless. Again, not going to use Marauders, and the Strider is neat, but will it really make that much of a difference? Siggy, of course, is a great fighter and an even better wordsmith, but he doesn't have a mount or magic or be a giant ogre the size of a mountain, so he tends to fall behind. Coming in second place, we have Archaon the Everchosen. His faction, of course, starts in the same place, and for his faction effects, he grants 3% weapon strength and missile strength per rank achieved for all units, minus 30% recruitment cost for Chaos Warriors, and minus 30 relations with all factions. For his personal army, he grants 5% ward save and plus 50% income from raising settlements. For his starting units, he gains Chaos Warriors, which are a tough frontlines mid-game infantry, chosen great weapons, which are an elite armor-piercing melee infantry, and Chaos Warriors with halberds, which are a tough anti-large infantry. Archaon himself is a powerful caster, whilst also being a brilliant fighter. He has access to the Law of Fire, which is one of the best in the game. He is super tough with a ton of HP, armor, a silver shield, and resistances, so he can take a serious amount of punishment. He has brilliant damage with armor piercing and magical attacks, as well as really great melee stats. He can also get on his mount, which grants him a bunch more speed and charge bonus at the cost of a slightly worse shield. With all his items and abilities, he grants buffs for himself and allies. Now, the reason for Archaon being in second place. His faction effects are pretty good, with the increased buffs for leveling being especially powerful as long as you aren't burning through units, which you shouldn't be when playing as these guys later into the game. The recruitment cost reduction is nice, but Warriors of Chaos aren't used into the endgame, so eventually this loses its allure. The relations can be seen as a bad thing, but let's be honest, were you going to be friends with anyone anyway? Didn't think so. Ward save for the whole army is crazy good, and the added income when raising is extremely useful. Archaon is a top tier battler and a powerful spellcaster with one of my favourite laws in the game, so is a massive force to be reckoned with on the battlefield, but not quite the most massive force. Finally, in first place, we of course have Kholek the Sun Eater. His faction grants 4 Chaos Corruption, minus 60% recruitment cost for Dragon Ogre units, but a minus 20% to ambush success chance. For his personal army, he grants minus 30% upkeep for Dragon Ogre units, and 10 melee attack for Dragon Ogre Shaggoth units. For his starting units, he brings Chaos Warrior Halberds, which are tough anti-large infantry, Chaos Warriors, which are tough front lines infantry, and Dragon Ogres, which are powerful, armor-piercing, monstrous infantry that are super fast. Kholek himself is an extremely powerful monstrous lord. He has a ton of health and armor, so can take a massive amount of punishment, even bringing some missile resist to counter his large hitbox. He's also super fast, so functions like a pseudo cav lord with a devastating impact and massive amounts of damage. He's an expert battler versus basically anything, but for sure is better in large clumps of armored enemies. With all his items and abilities, he grants buff for allies and himself, along with a bombardment ability. Now, the reason for Kholek being in first place, I mean, do I really need to say anything more than showing off this gigantic lad? His faction effects are brilliant for acquiring as many Dragon Ogres as you can, which is never a bad thing since they can be a touch expensive. His army making them cheaper and more powerful just reinforces this, especially since he starts with some of them, which makes his early game into a little bit of a joke if you can keep them alive. Kholek himself really carries the faction, to be honest, basically because of the sheer power in the early game that scales to the end game. He's a ferocious battler that the enemy lords will struggle to match for a very long time, and even if you prefer the other lords, you can always recruit them later, but start with Kholek because he is the best. And there we go, that concludes my ranking for the Warriors of Chaos lords. I know this was a short one, but let's be honest, they're all very similar and there's not many of them. We only have one faction left, which is Norska, which will probably be even shorter than this one since they only have 2 lords. After that, I'll be doing my big fat legendary lord ranking for every single legendary lord in the entirety of Warhammer 2, so definitely subscribe if you want to see that. One more final thanks to Fishing Clash for sponsoring this video. If you want to support the channel and check out the game, then be sure to use the link in the description and the pinned comment. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave it a like. It really does help out quite a lot. I'd like to take this time to thank all supporters of the channel, in particular Kobe Said So, for that fantastic support at the Unclean Ones tier. Thank you so very much for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.